Good evening and welcome back to another live stream, and tonight we are going to answer some of CC Pro members' questions. We will answer some questions on the live chat if we get time as well, and we're going to cover what's been going on in the market over the last couple of weeks. We covered a lot of macro stuff the last time, so great to see so many new questions coming in about different angles of the market and preparing for the inevitable bear market. I love the fact that people are actually asking about a bear market. It tells me that people are paying attention and ignoring all these crypto influencers that are saying there will be no bear market ever again. There will be a bear market, and it'll probably be one of the most brutal, and I believe a lot of altcoins won't come back from the next bear market. So thinking ahead, thinking about how you get out of the market and then what you do with your profits is crucial. We're going to cover that in tonight's stream. Let's quickly talk about Bitcoin, just hovering nicely around $107,000 after recovering from last weekend's move down into the 98k range from the Iran-Israel conflict. We have popped up nicely. We've kind of started to slow just here. I do think we might come back. Let me draw on. I think we'll definitely see some chop over the next few days. Probably consolidate here, maybe come back down, and then consolidate here before we really see that proper expansion. We might get lower. We might actually go back down here because there is a fair value gap in here down to 103k. So we might see that. We might see a deeper retrace. That's fine. I think the low's in for this move. I think the next destination is much higher, and I think we'll see all-time highs very soon. We'll talk about my prediction of 120k shortly as well. Looking across the market, a lot of red for altcoins. Dominance is the main thing that everybody should be focused on. Crypto or Bitcoin dominance, shall I say, is approaching the 786 retracement level. You can see the high back in December 2020, the low back down in September 2022, and we've just ground up slowly higher and higher as the last couple of years has gone on. Perfectly normal. We saw the peak back in December 2020 at 73%. I don't think we get that high. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next week or so with dominance. I think we'll get rejected at this level, at this 786 fib level. I'll show you why now. So the RSI, as we can see, has been putting in lower highs as we go up. That's a bearish divergence. The RSI is a momentum indicator, and it basically shows that the trend is running out of steam. It shows that market participants are getting exhausted, the trend is losing its impetus, if you like, and we will soon see a reversal. Whether it's this week or next week, the trend is running out of steam, and I'm pretty bullish that this will roll over very soon. I do think we might get that push up to this level. It seems highly unlikely that we're going to fall this short of the 786 level. So I do think we'll probably push up, hit 66.16%, and then start the demise. And I think it could be quite quick. Could coincide with some bullish news about ETFs or approvals for the SEC. It could be anything. It'll be a catalyst that will cause this trend reversal, but you'll see it in the chart first. Once dominance starts dropping fast, you know something's coming. If we look at XRP down quite heavy today, just because the Judge Torres has now said that Ripple and the SEC can't agree their own settlement, which is no surprise to anyone that pays attention to the world. So it wasn't really a surprise. Also, it wasn't a surprise because the market was down. If Judge Torres was going to allow it to be over, the market would be flying. So I do think we'll get a settlement or a conclusion in the next few weeks. I think that might be the catalyst for dominance to roll over. XRP, one of the biggest coins in the market. If it pumps, dominance will drop. So that could actually be the catalyst if Ripple and SEC agree to the settlement and agree to just end this nonsense. But you'll see it in the chart again. The XRP price chart will tell you that the settlement is agreed and done. Ethereum clinging on to support for dear life. Be bullish if it held 2410 to 400. Really, that would be pretty bullish. It looks like it probably drops back down to this black line, maybe 2350 area, maybe a bit lower, maybe 2300. But like I said, we are very bullish on the next 6 months, and I think we'll see some big moves over the next 90 days. Alright, we'll probably cover a lot more charts and stuff as the stream goes on, so let's dive into CC Pro and look at some questions. If you're not in CC Pro, links in the description. We prioritize all the CC Pro members on these streams. So let's have a look. So first question about Chiliz. So let's have a look. So Chiliz was one of our picks in the basket way back when. We'll go to the weekly chart. You can see it's taken a bit of a beating recently, back down to the 2021 level, February 2021 levels. This is just a common story across the market, and I say this every stream, but really for coins like Chiliz, and there's loads in that basket, basically anything outside the top 10. What you want to really look at is the total, the others chart. So the others is the total crypto market cap, excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. So this is the chart that you want to be looking at rather than looking at individual charts, because they're all telling you the same story. Altcoins outside the top 10, minus a few. You've got Sui, Hype's done quite well. Other than these kind of trendy coins, most altcoins are going to look terrible. Polkadot put in its lowest weekly close ever this week, or just the week past. Every altcoin is telling you the same story, so you don't really need to go through every single chart to kind of understand what's going on in the markets. You just need to look at the others chart. Others chart is testing the weekly 200-day moving average as support. It's below the 3-day and it's below the daily as well. So we really need to see it reclaim that level. Having said that, it is in a range after dropping, and it is putting in now a trend reversal. So we obviously came down, high there, lower high, lower high, lower high. We've now broke that and we've put in a higher high for the first time since February. This looks like it's going to be a higher low since April. So it does look like we are starting to build that support. I think this is going to be a slower move. I think anything outside the top 10 is going to take a while to get going. Maybe a few nuggets here and there like hype. But I do think this is normally the last one to go. And I think we'll probably be waiting a bit longer for others chart to really go into full blown expansion. But what we can see is we got rejected off the 886 level back at 443 billion. That was back in December 2024. Obviously, that was the peak for a lot of altcoins. You can see we're back down in this area. I do think we get a bounce soon. I think we can reclaim the daily 200 MA quite quickly. And then after that, we will see a new all-time high for others in probably in the next 90 days. And that'll send most altcoins crazy because a lot of them have such tiny market caps. It only takes a small amount of capital to actually move the price. So I wouldn't stress too much right now. I would just be watching the others chart. For me, Chili's, I definitely think it can get back up to the 50 cent area. The reason I say that is if you look on the 3-day chart, even if we just look at this pullback here. So this again was December, the high down to the recent low. The 50 cent level is the 4.236 extension, which I think most of the market will get to. Whether it gets to it fully on the full chart from 2021 remains to be seen, but I still think 50 cent it'll get there. I don't think it takes a lot of capital to move something like Chili's there. It literally all depends on timing, and that's the one thing we can't predict. We have to just wait and see. But 50 cent for me, it'll definitely do, and yeah, pretty confident in that. So quite a nice returns from 3 cents where it sits today. What's this V all about? We will cover that question shortly. Do you still see a chance of 120k before the end of June? Are we finally done with memes? And what's the latest on ETF approvals? Cool. So, ETF approvals, Bloomberg analysts have predicted this percentage of chances of approval. It's the same team that predicted the Bitcoin ETFs, and I think they were pretty spot on. I think they were out by about a week. So pretty reliable, and let's be serious. It's Wall Street, it's insiders, so they know what's going on. They know what they're talking about. I think the one thing I would point out is BlackRock isn't anywhere on here. That would be my only concern. I think when BlackRock wants something, BlackRock gets something. BlackRock aren't listed here anywhere. So once BlackRock come to the table, if BlackRock file for one of these ETFs, then it'll get approved. It's a done deal. What is interesting is that every single one, so the baskets index is July for the final deadline. That'll give us the signal whether the rest will probably be approved, because the index includes a lot of these coins. So if they're going to approve an ETF with these coins in it, they're probably going to approve individual ETFs. But what is interesting is a lot of them fall in October. We've said we think we'll see the crypto market pump into September, maybe have a bit of correction, and then there is a chance that we see that kind of blow off top into Q1 2026. This is probably what's going to cause it. However, there's nothing to say the SEC don't bring these deadlines forward and try and marry them up with the index fund. So it's going to be an interesting few weeks. The 2nd of July is just next week. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here. I think this probably gets approved. And if it does get approved, then that will kickstart ETF season. That's going to drive huge amounts of institutional capital into the markets. And it's going to send altcoins absolutely crazy. On top of that, on top of the ETFs, you also have the fact that the ETFs that are in play, especially Bitcoin and Ethereum, they're changing to in-kind. And that means instead of getting cash when you want to cash out of an ETF, right now, if you own an ETF and you want to sell it, they send you dollars. What's going to happen in the future is if you want to sell that ETF, you can decide if you take the Bitcoin that you own or the cash. And I would imagine a lot of people take the Bitcoin, keep it in cold storage, things like that. That's going to be really bullish for the market for two reasons. One, ETFs will definitely need to own the Bitcoin they say they are. And two, it'll just soak up more supply. So there'll be a bit of a supply shock when that happens. And that's going to happen with Solana as well, I believe. So, yeah, ETFs, very bullish. Next, 3-4 months. By the end of October, we'll have answers on the majority of these. I would imagine BlackRock will be the deciding factor. So keep an eye on that. And if BlackRock get involved, ETFs are coming. Are we finally done with memes? No, absolutely not. Memes will definitely have another run. And the reason for that is memes run all the time. Memes are the euphoric stages of the market. It's when people that have missed out on crypto, just heard about crypto, want to try and get involved. When retail starts pouring in, memes will go crazy again, because memes are viewed by new people to crypto as a get rich quick. It's how do I catch up with people that have been buying crypto for the last 3 or 4 years. I buy a meme coin, it'll 1000x, and then I'll go and buy Bitcoin. That's the theory. Doesn't work like that, but we all know how dangerous memes are. But most newcomers don't. They'll follow somebody daft on Twitter, they'll follow their predictions, they'll buy some meme coins, and we'll see a meme coin super cycle, if you want to call it that. But we'll see a absolute crazy period when altcoins are absolute flying. And there will be a lot of degeneracy, there will be a lot of risk taking. People will rotate profits from some of their proper crypto portfolio into memes, thinking they can catch the next 1000x. And yeah, we'll see a crazy meme cycle. One of the things that I always get asked is why I think people will chase risk and why they won't just cash out. And it's a really simple story, but it's, if anyone's ever seen those stories where people win the lottery and they don't know how to manage that money, so they end up buying a boat, they buy a big house, they go on holiday, they give money to all their friends, then within 2 or 3 years they're selling their house, they're bankrupt, they're selling all their cars. That's what happens in crypto so many times. People aren't prepared, so they don't have a take profit plan, they don't have a plan to rotate out of their coins at certain times, they don't know what to do with the cash when they get it, so they just chase risk. And also they think it's going to happen over and over again. They're convinced that they've mastered the market because they made a lot of money, and they made a lot of money maybe from a small amount of investment. For most people, I can probably speak for most people on stream and in CC Pro, is we've been doing this for a while, we've been investing, researching, learning about crypto, so we shouldn't fall into those traps. But that's why that's how altcoins actually perform, is because people chase risk, people think it's easy, they get lured in by they turn 10 grand into 200 grand, and then they think they're going to turn that 200 grand into $2 million. So they just keep chasing risk. That's what sends altcoins crazy. It's probably the one thing a lot of people don't talk about, but it's pure degen, not knowing how to manage money, not having a plan, thinking it's easy. That's what causes altcoins to go crazy, and that's what causes meme coins. So yeah, we'll see another meme coin run probably pretty soon, to be fair, especially if we get a breakout in altcoins. Do I still see a chance of 120k Bitcoin before the end of June? Probably not, to be fair. Let's be serious. I think there's a very slim chance we see that. I think the Iran-Israel war probably knocked us back by 2 weeks. I think we'll still see 120k Bitcoin very soon. I think the Israel-Iran conflict kind of screwed my prediction. But yeah, I'll take that. That's fine. 107k after a near breakout of World War III, then yeah, I'd say we're in a pretty strong position. And the bounce from 98k back to here in just, what, 10 days? Less than that. When was it? Not even that. It was just the weekend there. So, yeah. %10 move in the last few days. I think that's a pretty good recovery, and it shows strength, and it also shows that Bitcoin's volatile, but most of these moves happen at weekends when traditional investors can't sell anything else, so they have to sell their crypto because they're panicking, they're freaking out, or maybe they have to cover other trades, so that's why they sell the liquid asset. So as we see a move in the coming probably months, maybe years, for 24/7 stock trading, I think that will happen sooner rather than later, you'll see less of these massive sell-offs in crypto at weekends. You'll just see market-wide moves instead. So someone asks about the Genius Act, when it goes live and what the potential is. So it passed the Senate, which was the toughest part. It now has to pass the House, which it should do pretty easily. And then it goes to Trump to sign it into law, which will happen pretty much instantly. The impact will be massive on stablecoins. There's predictions that stablecoin volume can go anywhere between 3 and 5x from current volumes. So I think the stablecoin market cap's about 250 billion right now. So you're talking over $1 trillion in stablecoin market cap by the end of this year, with stablecoins expected to grow every single year for the next few years. That's bullish for crypto. Like I've said before, the hardest thing in crypto is getting from fiat to stablecoins. Once you get to stablecoins, it's really easy to get into crypto. But it's also bullish for the other reasons we've spoke about. The yields will come down because stablecoins have to hold treasuries, and it's also bullish because stablecoins transact on-chain, and on-chain creates fees, which drives price of the token. So the more transactions that happen on Solana, the higher the price of Solana. The more transactions that happen on Ethereum, the higher the price of Ethereum. That's why we saw when Solana memes went crazy, Solana went to all-time high. Same for XRP. I think the Ripple stablecoin will be a big winner of the Genius Act. So yeah, really bullish on stablecoins. Should come into play maybe in the next 30 days, probably by the end of July. And even more bullish is, because that got passed, the next round of crypto regulation is likely to get passed pretty easily as well. And it just means that politicians are now warm to the concept of passing crypto regulation. So because it then just becomes easier for the next regulation to pass and the next one. So we should see a lot more pro-crypto policy by the end of the year, which is very bullish. JG asked quite a good question, to be fair, about the dollar. So DXY has pretty much fell off a cliff. Hopefully everybody tuned into our stream when Trump got elected. But one of the things we said was Trump is bearish for the dollar strength. Trump needs a low dollar. He needs a weak dollar because he wants to make America more competitive with exports, and a weak dollar is bullish for global liquidity. A lot of central banks around the world can't weaken their currency. They can't print when the dollar's so strong because it makes imports more expensive. So as they weaken, I don't know, say you're, let's just use something easy like the euro. So you're in the eurozone, you want to weaken your currency, but the dollar's really strong. Well, that means if you weaken the euro, oil imports become more expensive because they're all priced in dollars. So while the dollar was really strong, currencies around the world had to stay strong to stay competitive. Now that the dollar's weakened, that's why you're seeing global liquidity break out. That's why global liquidity is going up while the Fed's not cutting. It's going up because banks around the world can now weaken, and you've saw the Swiss National Bank's now at 0% interest rates, the Euro's cut 10 times, China's stimulating like mad, Britain's obviously a bit of a basket case, but they're dropping rates. So you've got all these moves, and it's all because of a weaker dollar. Now, JG's question was, if the dollar's down so much, why are we not seeing risk assets up? But we are with just Bitcoin and gold in particular kind of front ran the move. So if you look at gold, it's pretty much straight up to the right. You look at Bitcoin on a zoomed out perspective, yeah, we've had these periods, but realistically, it's pretty much straight up to the right. And if we go back to, Trump got elected here, Bitcoin was 68k. It's now $107,000. It's almost double. So it's not necessarily the dollar drops and Bitcoin goes up at the exact same time. Bitcoin's front ran that move, but I think the next leg is going to be even more brutal for the dollar. I think, not to get too politics, too macro, but the one thing the Iran-Israel thing showed was America doesn't have troops or weapons to fund a war. Neither's the Eurozone, and they're all reliant on China. They need China for parts, they need China for the minerals, they need China for pretty much everything. That's what manufacturing Trump wants to onshore. He wants to bring back steel, he wants to bring back semiconductors, he wants to bring back weapons and manufacturing of arms. He needs a weak dollar in order to do that, to entice people to do business in the US, and obviously tariffs are going to help as well. So I think the dollar goes a lot lower. There's people predicting that it's going to, stop and it's going to bounce. I don't see it. I think it breaks this blue line pretty soon, and I think we could be back down at the lows by the end of the year. And this 89 level is one to watch because it's held it in 2018, it held it 2021. I don't know if it holds it a third time. I think this time it could crash and we could go back to kind of these 2014 levels by the middle of next year, and that's going to be very bullish for risk assets, Bitcoin especially, gold especially. So yeah, good question, but not exactly a straight answer. We have saw risk assets do very well, and if you think about it, like if you look at the stock market, we've got the S&P breaking new all-time highs as we speak, pretty much. All-time high was, don't even know what that is, 0.07% from all-time high on the S&P 500. You've got the Nasdaq making all-time highs. You've got the Russell starting to get going. This is key. And then you've got like Microsoft making new all-time highs. Coinbase making new all-time highs. Robinhood, new all-time highs. So we are seeing risk assets do very well. I guess it depends what asset you're talking about. Because if you look at Google, for example, way down. Apple, way down. Amazon, not as bad, but down. This is AI, in my opinion, that's causing this. But we'll cover that maybe on another stream, unless somebody wants more information on that. Alright, Run DMC. What are your plans for the bear market? Will you DCA into anything, or will you have a clean break for a while? Passive income streams, blah, blah, blah. So, really good question. Let's go back to Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin, I honestly don't care what anyone says on X or Twitter or YouTube. Bitcoin will have a massive drawdown at the end of the cycle. When the end of the cycle is going to be hard right now to predict. but there will be signs. And I think one of the other questions we get asked is, will we tell people? Of course we'll tell people when we're taking profit, when we think the market's topped, whether we think we'll get another run, because that's still, I'm kind of 50-50 between September, October time being the top, and then September, October being a correction, and then we get the euphoric rally into the next year. But I will definitely be buying Bitcoin in the next bear market. I think it'll come down. It could come down as low as kind of 50-60k, I would imagine. I don't know if it goes much lower than that. If we look at it on, let's go to the 2-week time frame. You know, somewhere in 48k, that area there, I would say might be a good price target as a bottom for the bear market. But it's so hard to tell. You'll know because all the bad news will start coming out. You know, we had FTX, we had so much bearish news at the time in the bottom. The same happens every single time. We saw it with BNB, we saw it with Solana. Bad news always seems to appear at the bottom to try and shake people, and everybody will be calling for lower, everybody will be calling for 20k, 21k, there's a CME gap, all this nonsense. I think 48k looks like a good bottom target. I'm quite happy to start dollar cost averaging in once we get below the 2021 cycle top. I think that's a good kind of reference point. If you look at this cycle, this was the top. If you started dollar cost averaging once we dropped below 20k from 2017, then you would have scooped up some nice cheap Bitcoin, and obviously we dropped another 5% or so. Is it more than that actually? Yeah, another 20% below that. Obviously this is a 2-week chart. So yeah, once we got below this orange level, you had a bit of time. I mean, what did we have? I suppose technically you had 200 days to scoop up some Bitcoin between below the previous all-time high. That would be, yeah, I'd probably say once we get below $69,000, I'll just start dollar cost averaging. If we get big dumps, then I'll buy heavy. And yeah, I think Bitcoin's the goal, to have as much Bitcoin as possible. So yeah, don't listen to anybody that tells you there's not going to be a bear market in Bitcoin. There 100% will be. Yeah, so it's Kev. So Kev says, will we tell people when we think the market top is in? Of course, like that's what CC Pro is. Like, we try to guide you on what we are doing. So if we think the market's starting to top out or there's warning signs, then we'll definitely be letting members know. Fraz says, what is our take on the stance that our December run was our bull run peak and we're now in the process of fizzling down into the bear market? To be honest, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see that I just argue with all these people that post clickbait stuff. The same person that said that will be telling you that they're longing Bitcoin and they're calling the top next and stuff like that. You see it all the time. I follow a guy on Instagram, he posts all the time, I'm 100% out the market, World War 3, crash is coming, Bitcoin bounces, and he claims he was long the whole time and he knew to buy the dip. It's just noise. For me, the reason why I can say that confidently is, one, well, Bitcoin's put in 2 all-time highs since December, so Bitcoin's still running. We haven't broke out at all, so Total 2 hasn't even made a new all-time high this cycle. So this was our all-time high, fell short of it in December. I think we easily make a new all-time high this cycle. I think we go much, much higher. I think we do about 3 to 4, well, yeah, probably 3 trillion in Total 2. And Bitcoin dominance hasn't dropped yet. Bitcoin dominance is still in an uptrend. So we haven't seen any run for the altcoin market. We saw pockets of it. We saw Solana, XRP, SWE done well, some AI coins done okay, but to be honest, we never really saw the proper altcoin rally that we will get. There's no question of that. Crypto's going to be bullish. The altcoin market is going to have its day. it's these periods here are about convincing everybody that it's never going to come, and the altcoin market is never going to break out. That's why this slow grind is so painful. But if you look at, so we're at 65.9% in dominance right now. If we go back to January 2021, when we were basically at the same price in dominance, so 65%, almost 66%, back in January 2021, if we look at the total to the altcoin market, I think it was the 18th, so it was here. So it was this candle here. Yeah, just here. So the altcoin market was 330 billion, hadn't made a new all-time high yet, and eventually it went to 1.7 trillion. So just here, sorry, it's this one, 18th of January. Dominance was at 65%, and over the next 10 months, it 4x'd in market cap. Now, I know for a fact the next question is going to be, well, if it only 4x's, how come altcoins do crazy gains? Because the money stays in the market cap. So once the altcoin market rallies, the money doesn't leave the altcoin market. It just rotates throughout the market. So the first run will be Solana, XRP, maybe SWI because it seems to do well. Some of the DEX tokens like Uni, maybe the Jupiter token, stuff like that will do well. Ethereum, obviously, they'll run first. Then the money will flow out of them. They'll cool off, and the money will flow into more and more lower cap altcoins. So yeah, it's not about timing. So don't try and compare everything to the 18th of January 2021. My point is here, Bitcoin was, let's find Bitcoin just to give you perspective. So at this point, Bitcoin was 32k, but it just crashed 23%. And I know for a fact that in this period here, when Bitcoin dropped, people said that was it all over. There wasn't going to be an alt season, altcoins weren't going to pump. That was what was going on there, because Bitcoin had this massive rally. It had exceeded the previous all-time high by 50% nonetheless. Then it had dropped 25%, and the altcoin market was still way behind, hadn't made a new all-time high. And then it caught up, and it caught up quickly, done a 4x, which in market cap's huge, and altcoins went crazy. So I think comparing charts in different times is really important. And yeah, that's why I'm confident that the best is yet to come, shall they say. Let's have a look at, right, there's quite a lot of questions on the basket and Xborg. So let's jump over to the basket. So currently, I need to double check that I've updated this recently, but at 12k right now, we took profit in Tether. We rotated some of it back into Curve, which somebody said today is a good time to buy. In my opinion, it goes way higher. So let's find it on here. It's still so low, and even if it just gets back to this peak here, that's, you're talking, you know, almost a 3x from today's price. I think it looks really, really good. It's also back to a key level. You look at where it's bounced off here. That was the top back in March. It was also the support level before the breakout in November, and it was also the top back in May. So yeah, quite a key level for CRV. It was also the low back in 2022. So yeah, it looks good for me. But yeah, so the basket, we don't necessarily have written out specific targets for each coin, but what we do have is an idea of how we're going to get to that 100k, and we'll be taking profit on each coin at different points in the market, and that will kind of highlight the whole point about things run at different times. So I expect us to take profit on Bitcoin. If I had to guess what order we do it in. Bitcoin will be first. Uniswap will probably be second, because I think Uniswap is going to pump hard pretty soon, especially with regulation. We also released this low risk portfolio, currently down $200, mostly by Polkadot. You can see Bitcoin doing pretty well. Borg actually up on when we entered, just. Solana down, but I wouldn't really pay too much attention to that. Solana we know is going to go back to $300, and when it does, we'll be in some nice profit. And then Polkadot's kind of the one dragging us down. So that's kind of the two basket updates. We'll obviously provide updates on when we're taking profit, what we're rotating, if we rotate, and yeah, our goal is to turn that 5k into 100k. We're up 2x right now. I think it's easily doable, a 10x from here. Somebody asked me about Xborg down at 5 cents. Look, I think it's just like the others chart. It's getting absolutely destroyed. Every time Bitcoin drops and dominance goes up, the smaller the altcoin, the harder it takes the hit. Same with Opulus, which I've never had so many messages about Opulus. I think long-term Xborg will do well. I think they've got partnerships coming. I've seen Louis and Connor doing lots of marketing and stuff on Twitter. Still there, still present. I think it's just terrible market. I would not like to be a founder of a gaming token in this market. Alvara, somebody asked me about this the other day. Back at this is, I'm sure this is the seed price we paid. So basically you're back flat if you invest in the seed price. It looks like middle of August the mainnet is going live. I think they're going to announce the date in the next few days if they've not already done it. Mid-August baskets will be implemented. I think they've already got pretty much every KOL lined up to make their own basket. We'll be making our own basket. That's going to be very bullish for the token price, but also for the application and the project. So I am super bullish on Alvara. Taking a lot longer than I expected to get here. However, I think August is a perfect time for them to launch. I think we'll be getting into the crazy altcoin excitement phase at that point, and people will want to show how much they know about the crypto market. And also, it's an amazing tool for calling out all those crypto influencers that don't put their money where their mouth is, claim they buy stuff but don't. This will just highlight all that to everyone. Somebody asked if there's going to be one-to-one offers on how to maintain and preserve wealth after the bull market. Yeah, I think after the bull market, one-to-ones will still be available. We'll definitely be meeting people, doing one-to-ones, talking about other passive income streams, how to get back into the market if you want to get back into crypto once you've taken profits. And also, we have a lot of products and a lot of other services we can offer to generate that passive income. My firm belief, I've said this to a lot of people I've spoke to, I think I've said it on streams as well, I think the next bull market will dominate by cryptos that have some form of yield or passive income. I think the attraction with stocks for many people is that they get a dividend. Most cryptos you hold and you hope it makes money, but the goal is always to sell. The only way you ever make money in crypto is when you sell. That actually creates a really toxic trait because everybody's constantly looking to dump on the next person. So I think tokens that start having a revenue model, a real business, they can start paying people for holding their token, whether it be a percentage of revenue, whether it be discounts, affiliates, whatever it is. I think that's going to be big in the next bull run, and I think that'll be one avenue for passive income as well. Do I think markets will move in July? Yeah, I do. I think end of the quarter, end of the 6 month period, I think the second half is going to be bullish. I think if we've got FOMC coming up in July the 30th, the very end of the month, I think this might change a bit, but it looks like September is almost guaranteed a rate cut at this moment in time, and October is starting to look like there's going to be a rate cut then as well. I think if we get some cool inflation numbers, so tariffs are meant to kick in the start of July. The whole reason the Fed haven't cut rates is because they say tariffs are inflationary. Tariffs kick in at the start of July, the Fed meeting's the end of July. That means that by the end of July, they'll realise that tariffs aren't inflationary, because they just aren't. So, because tariffs aren't inflationary, the Fed's entire argument for not cutting rates will evaporate in the month of July. And they might not cut, but they'll definitely cut in September. I think even this week, Powell's saying that they're getting conflicting arguments about inflation and tariffs. It's just nonsense. He's holding rates high for his own agenda, and I think we'll see the narrative shift in July, and I think it'll be bullish for markets. I think we'll get some weak economic data, which is bullish for rate cuts. We'll see the dollar continue to drop. We'll see probably gold cool off with some of the uncertainty disappearing. And I think Bitcoin and crypto will do very well in July. I think the other thing people need to remember is, like, people keep saying to me, oh, this year's been terrible for crypto. And you're like, well, has it? Because even if we just go back to May, we're up 10% in Bitcoin, which I get that most people hold the majority in altcoins, so maybe their altcoins are down. But you have to look at it from a bigger perspective rather than just, I hold these coins and I only care about the market when these coins do well. The market as a whole is very strong. The tailwinds haven't even started to kick in. The Genius Act isn't even signed into law. Rate cuts haven't started. If you look at a reason to be bullish, you've got Robinhood breaking out to new all-time highs. You've got Coinbase making new all-time highs, and you've got Circle down a bit, but still up massively from its IPO. Wall Street wants crypto. Wall Street wants as much exposure to crypto as it can get. That is where the trillions and the billions come from. That's going to pump every crypto. So yeah, and I think the Robinhood and the Coinbase are ones to watch, because why are people buying them? Well, they know that something's coming. Wall Street don't buy Coinbase and send it to all-time high, and it's moved since the 13th of June. Coinbase has moved over 58%. Wall Street are buying Coinbase because they know Coinbase makes money when altcoins have a lot of demand. So they know altcoin demand is coming, and it's coming in a big way. So they're getting as much exposure right now. So yeah, not a time to be bearish. If I was just entering the market at current prices and you could only choose 5 coins, what would you choose and why? Man, that's such a difficult question, because it all depends on what you're aiming for, what you're optimizing for. If you want max returns, then you need to go way out on the risk curve. If you're wanting a bit of balance, then I would look at something like, I still have a bit of faith in Polkadot. I mean, it's putting in lower lows, but I think eventually it turns it around. I like Uniswap. I think Uniswap's up, but still got loads of growth. You've got VeChain, I think, still in the kind of bear market lows. But if you look across the altcoin market, most things are at bear market lows. You look at Sushi, still down there. Zilliqa, I could literally pick any coin at random. I mean, even Hedera that's meant to be in this, what did Trump call it? The crypto strategic reserve. The made in America coins. Well, it's still down almost 200% from its January peak. So it really depends what you're trying to get and how quick. Loads of opportunities in the market. I guess whatever you buy, you just need to stick with. I would definitely, of course, look at Borg. I think Borg's really cheap. LimeWire, Opulus, these are all really good picks, but you could literally pick any coin. I wouldn't, if I was aiming for upside, I wouldn't buy Bitcoin right now, wouldn't buy XRP right now, and I wouldn't buy BNB right now. Maybe wouldn't even buy Solana, but I'd maybe have some exposure to Solana just because I think it's going to shock people with what it does. Other than that, you could pretty much go and buy any coin, and I think you'll do pretty well in the coming months. Covered CRV. Somebody asked about OCC. I covered this in the last stream. They've just partnered with Galactica. They've got a launchpad coming as well. So I don't think it's dead. I have no idea why it's been crushed so badly. But I do think it's still alive for now. Right, well, we'll look at Opulus because it seems like the most popular coin tonight. So someone messaged me the other day. I'm going to cover this just quickly. Someone covered me the other day, contacted me the other day and said that the Telegram wasn't very good. Did that mean we had lost faith in it? One thing I would say is Telegrams are really good for meme coins. Telegrams are good for updates, but day to day, if you're a founder of a project and you're actually working on it, you don't have time for Telegram. And I think that's why sometimes it's confusing, because when you see like these meme coins that do well, they always come from a really strong community, really strong Telegram. But that's because they're not doing anything else. Because the meme, all they're doing is making memes and GIFs and stickers. So they've got plenty of time to be in Telegrams doing AMAs, talking about the meme coin casino or whatever. For me, Opulus are pretty active on X. Let me see if I've got it. Don't have it. I'll share it. Let me see if I can. So yeah, I mean, they're still active on X. They're sending updates out. They're talking about a new listing. It looks like they are trying to get listed somewhere. It looks like it got delayed. But yeah, for me, not lost faith. I think Opulus still does really well in the upcoming bull run. I think the fact that they've integrated AI and RWA makes them a pretty bullish pick. I was joking with somebody the other day that you stick AI on the end of anything right now and you probably do alright out of it. So yeah, I wouldn't lose faith just because of price action, because I don't know one altcoin that's really doing anything decent right now. Maybe XRP's an exception because it's up like 5x since its kind of October price, but everything else is down, and it's all to do with the others chart and Bitcoin dominance. Until this reverses, I don't expect these coins, especially the smaller cap coins, to do anything. I think for me, I think I've said all along that I think this is the area I would be targeting short term, but I do think it could go up. I think $2 is probably somewhere, like, I think it could do that if they stay active and they attract the right hype. Then yeah, does it make a new all-time high? We need to see what happens with the altcoin market once it starts breaking out, but I don't know if I would hold out for that. I think, from today to $2, you're talking 100x. I think that would be a topside target for me right now. But there's huge potential. I still think this altcoin market is going to shock everyone. I think there's going to be all-time highs galore, and I think people are going to be surprised. I think people are going to think that the market won't go as high. I think the US government needs to roll over like 11 trillion in the next 12 months. Arthur Hayes was talking about 9 trillion in new liquidity coming out of the market in the next 12 months. That amount of money has never been seen in crypto. So for me, I think the altcoin market is going to explode. I think Wall Street has never had easier access to crypto, and we're going to see a massive rotation, in my opinion, out of the top tech stocks, especially like Google, Apple, maybe even Amazon, potentially Meta. These stocks, I think we're going to see a rotation out of in Wall Street, and that capital is going to flow into crypto because it's the next place where they can make these obscene gains. They've ridden the AI wave, it's kind of tapped out, although I think AI's got loads more to come. But I think Wall Street, the taps are going to get fully turned on, and they're going to chase the crypto pump as much as possible, and that's going to be so bullish for us. So yeah, I'm not ruling out all-time highs. I'm just also not holding out for them, and I'm not banking on all-time highs across the board. So someone asked me, what is this V all about? The one thing I can say right now is there is something big coming. Can't go into the details today, but CC Pro members are going to hear first, as always. It'll be explained very soon to CC Pro members. They'll have first access, they'll have the first info, and yeah, it's going to be huge in my opinion, and it may or may not cover a few of the questions we've answered tonight. That's all I can kind of say tonight, but yeah, we're super excited for whatever it may or may not be, and yeah, you'll need to be in CC Pro and stay up to date to get all the updates. Someone asked me about silver a few days ago. For me, I think silver is just looking super strong. I think we see another breakout very soon. I think we'll maybe consolidate for a bit longer here, and then we'll get another breakout. Silver is still lagging gold massively, but we are seeing a bit of rotation into it. We've also got a massive delivery date due. I think it's tomorrow. The last Friday of the month, and I think from what I've read, there is likely to be a bit of a supply shock in silver coming soon, and these end of month deliveries are going to cause it. So interesting to watch silver next week as that plays out. Somebody also asked me about here's an interesting chart for anyone that has people that are non-crypto, especially somebody that has a workplace pension. So everybody always talks about the S&P 500, the S&P 500 being up 8% and returns this and it returns that. Well, if you bought the S&P 500 in 2006, you're back flat to today. Now, fair enough, maybe you weren't buying stocks back then, maybe not that old. 2017, same price. 2020, same price. The S&P 500, when you factor it in for inflation and the demise of the dollar, it's pretty much flat. And yeah, it has these spikes, it has these dumps, but it comes back. So The next time you hear somebody saying, "Oh, crypto's too risky," the S&P 500 returns 8% a year, steady income, just buy gold. You'd be better buying gold. It does the same trick, same price, and yeah, I prefer gold, to be fair. And then this is the chart that was shared and somebody in CC Pro Alpha asked me to cover. So this is crypto or Bitcoin dominance when you include stablecoins. So the Bitcoin dominance we normally look at is just Bitcoin versus the entire market. This one includes stablecoins. Now, as you can see right now, we are at the 886. Rejected off it a couple of times. It does look like we could break it this week. For me, I wouldn't be surprised. And the reason for that is there is a lot of money sitting on the sidelines right now. In order to come out in the market, it has to go into stablecoins first. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see a bit of a spike. You see dominance is, I think it's on the 3-day chart. Yeah, back at the 200-day moving average on the 3-day chart. So we could see a bit of a bounce in stablecoins. That'll be short term. That'll then be bullish for crypto because we'll then see that stablecoin money rotate into crypto. But as always, everything is a timing thing. When the time's right, the powers that be will let the taps go and we will see massive flows into crypto. US M2 money supply continues to make new all-time highs, and finally yields are starting to go down as well. So it's a really bullish setup for the second half of the year. I think the monthly candle close on Monday will be very bullish. You can see we bounced off that liquidity box perfectly, and we're going to set a new all-time high for monthly candle close, and we look super bullish. That's all for tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. Stay tuned for more V updates in CC Pro, and I'll be back very soon with some more videos and live streams. Thanks for your questions, especially CC Pro members, and we'll do this again very soon. Catch you later.